cowpox, fever blisters and colds, herpes, general herpes, chickenpox, shingles, cytomegalovirus, which causes eye blindness for most people, right? But the adenovirus is several types of warts. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you get a wart, it's a viral mediated process. That's just the way it is. Right? And so there are not many in there that are scary, right? At least not to me. I mean, I guess I don't want herpes because if you get herpes, it's it's a gift for life. You get it, you have it forever. Are you with me? I guess I don't want that one, but could I live with it? Yeah, it's more of a nuisance than anything else, right? But then some of these guys, the RNA viruses, are really scary, right? So polio, which we've had under control prior to COVID, there were only 2 countries in the world that had polio, and we were about to rid the world of polio, and then COVID hit, and now there's 8 countries now that have polio, right? And so we're going to work on that again, but common cold, diarrhea, and then you have all the encephalitis, so Eastern, Western, yellow fever, St. Louis, rubella, dengue fever. There's West Nile, California. Then you have respiratory distress syndrome, kiddo stuff. Used to be called the sin-numbering name because they didn't have a name for it. They said, oh, the virus without a name, but it causes respiratory distress. Are you with me? So it's pretty interesting to think about how it is. And then you get into the bad boys, Rift Valley fever, the criminal Congo hemorrhagic, Ebola, Bachupo, Marburg, all those things that have scary names, they're in this group, right? And then you come down and you have influenza, rotavirus, mumps, measles, the common cold, rabies. Then you get T-cell leukemia. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of cancers are viral mediated. So Epstein-Barr virus causes Burkitt's carcinoma of the throat. So there's all kinds of interesting things like that. Then there's a coronavirus. So coronavirus used to be an enteric pathogen, and then it mutated, and now it's respiratory. Holy shish kebabs. We've been studying the coronavirus for over 50 years. So we got lucky that the one pandemic that decided to hit us, we knew a lot about already. All we needed was the genome of the virus, which the Chinese gave us before they locked down and wouldn't share anything. Not the scientists. The scientists were willing to share, but the government didn't want them to. And then we needed the spike protein. So we got the genome of coronavirus from the Chinese, thank you. And then we got the rendering of the spike protein from UT. Now we can make a vaccine and we get it very quickly. That's pretty interesting. So remember I said, Rachel, that I was going to have an image that was going to show the envelope better, right? So here is a virus with an envelope. It's attached to specific receptor sites on the surface of this cell. It now gets in, right? The cell opens up and allows it in. It removes its envelope and its capsid. And in this case, the RNA takes over the cell and it starts to make or tell the cell to make new viral pieces. All the viral pieces come together and they form a virion. And the virion, before it leaves, it takes a piece of the plasma membrane with it, and that plasma membrane becomes its envelope. So now the immune system doesn't recognize it for a little while as being different than you because it has all the markers of you, right, which is pretty scary. And so that's hard to understand for a lot of people, but it's the truth. So here is a bacteriophage. This is bacteriophage T4R. This particular bacteriophage will only infect E. coli, nothing else. Viruses are host specific. Okay. If we take a little bit closer look at it, you can see here's the capsid. Inside of the capsid is a nucleic acid. Then you have this sheath that acts like a syringe. And so when the tail fibers attach to the specific receptor sites on the surface of the cell it's going to infect, in this case it's E. coli, then there's a little bit of enzyme that gets released. It weakens the cell wall, and then these tail pins kind of make the plasma membrane and the cell wall really weak, and so then it plunges its nucleic acid into the cell, and then the nucleic acid becomes transposonic and takes over. I'm smelling cake. Who's eating cake? Nobody's eating cake? Am I just making things up? That smells like vanilla cake to me. Does somebody have some kind of nice perfume that smells like cake? Is it cake?
No, it's like
Strawberry?
strawberry.
Smells like cake to me. Okay. Now I want cake. Okay, let's talk about the replication cycle of viruses. We call it the lytic cycle. There are 6 different phases: attachment, penetration of viral nucleic acid, the biosynthesis of viral components, the assembly of viral components, the maturation of the virus, and then the release of the virus, right? So here, I'm not drawn to scale because these things are tiny, but here's E. coli. There's a bacteriophage. It is attached to specific receptor sites on the surface of E. coli. This virus will only infect E. coli. It will not infect any other cell. It won't infect any cells in your body. It won't infect Pseudomonas. It won't infect Proteus, just E. coli. Okay? So viruses are very host specific. You should know that. That's really important. So this particular virus is only going to infect E. coli. Okay? So it makes it attaches, there's a little bit of enzyme that gets released. These plates kind of make the cell wall really thin, and then it penetrates, it plunges its DNA into the cell. That DNA becomes transposonic. What does that mean, Lisette? Transposonic, what does that mean? It's a jumping gene. That means that gene jumps into the chromosome. Okay? So it then directs the bacterial cell to stop doing what it's doing for the bacteria, but to make more viruses. So a whole bunch of viral components are made, all these little pieces, and there's a recipe in the DNA or the nucleic acid, and so those things get put together, all the viruses get made, right? Now you've got them so that they're almost completely ready to go. We said that they've reached maturation. When they reach maturation, there's a little bit of an enzyme called lysozyme that's released from each of the viruses. That weakens the cell, and the cell breaks apart, and all the viruses get released. And those viruses can go out and infect other cells, but only E. coli and nothing else. Okay? It used to be a long time ago, before we had molecular techniques. Are you eating cake?
No.
Okay. Okay. It used to be a long time ago, before we had the molecular techniques, we would use viruses to tell us which strain of bacteria is causing outbreaks. We call that phage typing. We don't do it anymore. We have all the viruses still in a collection, but the molecular techniques are so much easier to use that we just use like the DNA or the RNA to identify these things. Okay? And that's pretty cool to think about how that works. Adsorption is sometimes used by people to represent the attachment of the virus to the cell it's going to infect, and mostly for animals. Okay? Good. So, Nikki, you do know that this is available for you on YouTube, right? You just
One
recorded
of the
it for fun?
members of my group was gone today.
Huh?
One of the members of my group was gone today, so
Oh,
I
okay.
recorded it for her.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay. So, if we think about this for a moment, here is a TEM, and it's showing the bacteriophages attached to it. Because we have these electron micrographs, we can have artists kind of show a rendering of what it looks like for this virus to actually be attached to a cell and then to penetrate its nucleic acid. Because you can see the nucleic acid being penetrated into into the cell. It's pretty remarkable that we can do this. Right? And then you can see that one E. coli cell can have thousands or hundreds of thousands of viruses attached to it. Only one of them will penetrate. There's a signal that goes off says I'm in, and then all the other viruses release. Right? It's harder to do analytical work with viruses because they're so tiny. The one thing that we can do here at ACC is what we call a plaque assay. And I do this with the majors class when I teach that. And so here you can see is a long growth, and each of these little clearings is known as a plaque. So we can count the PFUs. What's a CFU, Ms. Harlow?
So a single colony.
Colony forming unit. Therefore, a PFU is a plaque forming unit. It's a virus, right? So if we were to count every one of these little tiny clearings in that monolayer of cells, we could estimate the number of viruses that are in a population. Okay? And viruses are easy to grow. All you need is a cell, and you can grow a bunch of them. Okay? That's pretty interesting. Now, how do we know what the bacteriophages look like? Well, because we have electron micrographs showing the different components, the capsid and the sheath and the tail pins of the base plate. We have all these different things, and therefore we can make renderings of them. Right? That's pretty cool to think about. Right. Here's the lytic cycle. Right, so this is the lytic cycle. You have attachment, penetration, synthesis, assembly, and release, right? So, but over here on this side is what we call lysogeny. This is the lytic cycle. This is lysogeny. Lysogeny means that the virus infects you but goes dormant. So can you appreciate here the virus has got in, and there's the profile. That's the nucleic acid. It becomes transposonic. It is now part of the chromosome, and every single cell that is made from those cells has got that viral component in it, right? That's what I said, you know, your DNA is pure until you get your first viral infection, and they leave pieces of themselves behind, right? So sometimes these things will get into your body. In this case, it's shown in the bacteria, but they get into us also, and they go dormant. What pathogenic virus do you know gets in your body, causes an infection, and then goes dormant? And then when you get stressed out, herpes is one of them, most common one. The other one is what? Chickenpox, which then causes shingles later on. Those are both lysogenic viruses. There's others, but those are the two most common. With herpes being probably the most common ever talked about. If you get a case of herpes, it's a gift for life. You'll have it forever. You can't get rid of it. Right? At least currently. I mean, there's technology we can get rid of it, but we don't. It's very expensive, and so nobody's going to pay $50,000 to get rid of herpes. Right? They're going to pay $100 for acyclovir to stop its progress. And so that's pretty interesting. Okay? Anybody have questions? So if I said, what's the lytic cycle's function, you'd say what, Desiree? Replication of the virus. But if I ask, what's the lysogenic reason that for what is lysogeny in viruses, you say what?
Dormant.
It goes dormant. And then later on, when you get stressed out, you know, these viruses hit you when you're at they'll hit you when you're at your lowest. Ma'am?
Can you repeat that one?
The lytic cycle is the replication cycle. The lysogenic cycle is when they go dormant. And then you get stressed out, brain. And stressed out could be too many tests, but it could also be you're taking too many classes, or you got a sunburn, or you're pregnant. And being pregnant is a stressor to the body. Except not for the guys, you know, they're not doing anything for 9 months, you know. Have to go mow the yard at least, or do something, right? So, okay? Good? So let me introduce you to cytopathic effect, CPE. Only see it mostly in viruses that use it diagnostically. What this means, cytopathic, so there's a mechanism of disease in the cell. It changes the cell. We say that the cells are dysplastic. They're abnormal. And this is mostly seen for us in pap smears, right? Because we're looking specifically for certain types of dysplasia, because it could be an indicator of precancerous activity, which then can lead to cancer, right? So if we see dysplastic cells during your normal checkup, we're probably going to ask you to come back in 6 months to look again. And if we continue to see it, there might be some kind of medical intervention that we do to try to help it so it doesn't. And the worst case that can happen is you have an early hysterectomy so that you're not going to have cancer. But you know, if we can save one person from developing cervical or uterine cancer, to me it's worth it. I know I'm a guy talking to a bunch of ladies, and I shouldn't be talking and telling you that I believe that pap smears are really important. They should be done on an annual basis when the CDC or whoever is basically saying for a healthy population every 3 to 5 years. Right? I'm like, okay. If you don't see it for 5 years, it might be pretty well established by then. Let's take a look and make sure it's not doing that. Okay. Pretty interesting about that. I don't need you to know the different types of pathology, the cytopathic effect that happen with cells. I just need you to know that it causes a change in the cell. And that change can be inclusions appear, they get round up, they get clumping, right? There's cell lysis but no inclusions, right? There can be a change in the cell shape or no change at all. There can be kind of separations within the cell. There's just lots of different things that can happen. I don't need you to know the specific ones. I just need you to know that cytopathic effect is diagnostic for some viral pathogens. Okay? And now we're going to talk about some of the more common infectious viruses. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I used to talk about a lot of them, and then, you know, if it got to be too much, I picked a few, and those are the ones I'm going to talk about. I think the ones I'm going to talk about are pretty relevant to us in the United States. Okay? You look really tired, Bree. Are you okay?
Felt too good.
Okay. So, let's talk about influenza. Influenza, to me, is an infectious agent that's not taken seriously by a lot of people. So, it is a big time killer, but yet very few people see it that way. They see it as a nuisance, and therefore they don't get the vaccine for influenza. How many people, be honest, how many people take the vaccine for influenza? Oh, well, that's more than I expected. The people who don't take vaccines take them for a lot of reasons. And unfortunately, right now, one of the big reasons is political, right? So if you don't take vaccines, it's because you follow a particular political ideology. If you take vaccines, that means, you know, you're a tree hugger or something like that. I've always taken vaccines. I've got more vaccines than the average person because of the work I do, or the work that I have done. And I've taken vaccines for a lot of things. And so I take the vaccine for influenza every September. September 1st is when I go and get it. And it's just on the calendar, time for flu shot. Right. Sometimes I go to HEB, I'm like, I'm here for a flu shot. Oh, they're not ready to go 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll come back in 2 weeks. But usually they know me, they know me. I get influenza on one side and the coronavirus on the other, because there's always a new variant of coronavirus. So I just give them to go. Right? And so I'm lucky that the insurance pays for it, but not all the time. This is influenza. This is an image of the influenza virus under an electron micrograph. This is a triage. They use the whole gymnasium as a triage during the Spanish flu of 1918. The Spanish flu of 1918 killed about 30 million people off of this planet, and that's conservative. Some of the numbers that I've read are up to 75 million. It's hard for me to appreciate. 30 million, I'll accept right away. When you start getting 50, 60, okay, that's harder to really, because if you think about that, coronavirus took about 3.5 million people off this planet. And yet, the pictures we remember were of bodies being lined up in certain countries and being burned. We saw mass graves in Brazil being dug and people being put in there and then covered over. And in San Antonio, which got hit hard, they bought or rented freezer trucks and they put the bodies in the freezer trucks until they could get to them. Right? But it was a problem. It was a big problem because we had no place to put our deceased. What's that?
That's why the burning is necessary.
The burning happened in certain countries, right? Because they had no place to put it. If you want to get rid of a virus, the easiest way to do that is just to burn the body. Yeah,
With the influenza shot, like, I know it doesn't like get rid of the virus, it just weakens the virus.
one more time, the influenza shot doesn't what?
I know it doesn't get rid of the virus, right? It just weakens the virus.
No, doesn't do that either.
Because every time I got it, I ended up getting the flu.
Well, you're going to get the flu anyway. You can't get the influenza virus from the vaccine. It doesn't work that way. So if you got influenza and then you got the vaccine, it's coincidental. There's no way you got influenza from the vaccine. It doesn't work that way. Okay? That has happened with polio, right? But it was not because the vaccine didn't work. It's because they made a mistake when they made the vaccine. But if you got influenza after you took the vaccine, you were going to get influenza anyway. You were already headed that way. And the other misconception about vaccines is that if you get a vaccine, you won't ever get it. That's not true. The vaccines do one thing. They allow you to have immunity against the infectious agent. So if you come down with the infection, your time with the virus or the bacterium or whatever the infectious agent is shorter and less severe. So the thing about vaccines is it's supposed to, two things. It's supposed to protect you from the onslaught of a full-fledged infection. And the second thing, it's like a social contract, where if you're healthy and you take vaccines, you're actually protecting the individuals in society that are weaker or can't take the vaccine. Right? That's what we call herd immunity. But it doesn't work anymore because many people decide not to take the vaccine. Mostly because they're uneducated about how vaccines work. Or they choose to believe a certain way just because certain people say it. What I'm saying is, if you don't take vaccines, you're taking a risk. I mean, there's risk with everything, right? I'm gonna say, vaccines have saved millions of people's lives, but also 1 out of every 100,000 individuals who take a vaccine have an anaphylactic reaction. What does that mean? That means that you go into anaphylaxis. Your body starts to shut down, and if you don't have epinephrine, you could die. It's a biological agent, right? And everybody's immune system is different. Everybody's physiology is different, right? And so everybody's going to react a little bit differently to vaccines. Okay. Good. So, severe symptoms, right? Chills, fever, sore throat, muscle pain, headache, coffee, weakness, general discomfort. When about 8 years ago now, my wife and I both got the flu at the same time. It only affected me. We'd both been vaccinated. It only affected me for about 5 days. But after about the third day, I started to convalesce. By the time the 5th day rolled around, I could do anything except I was still hacking up this green, nasty mucus out of my lungs. And it hurt to cough because, you know, it stuck to the lung and come out. My wife got hit for 3 weeks. She was down for 3 weeks, bedridden. I took the Shingrix vaccine for herpes and I hit just recently. And then I told my wife I got it and she went and got it. And then she said, I don't feel very well. So then she went to bed early and then she called me. I was watching basketball. And she called me, she said, you need to come help me. And I got there, she was shivering. It was her immune system reacting to the Shingrix vaccine. And I was really scared at that moment. And I said, we're gonna go to the emergency room. Oh, she said, no, I read about it and this is what happens in a very small percentage of people. It's a side effect. I'm like, we're going, you know, let's wait an hour. I'm like, yeah. But we waited an hour and she was still shivering. I couldn't put enough blankets on her. I turned on the heaters, I put blankets on her, and she still couldn't get warm. 2 hours passed and she started to feel better. I was about to stick on the car.
So are some people more sensitive to vaccines than others?
People react differently to them. I didn't react at all. I mean, my arm was a little sore, right? I took it on Thursday because I played tennis on Wednesday, so I figured, you know, Thursday would be all right. Give me a week to recover before I go back on the tennis court. I didn't have any problem with it. Anybody military in here? In military, you usually don't have a choice. You're going to take whatever vaccine they're going to give you. Because some of those places they're at, there's some really bad infectious agents. So in 2009, some of you weren't even born yet. It wasn't very long ago, but you know, that's what? Some of you were not born yet, right? Well, I don't think. Is everybody born in 2009?
17 years ago. So.
Okay, fine, maybe. But swine flu hit. Are you with me?
That's crazy.
Swine flu hit.
I remember when it hit.
It was a pandemic. But nobody cared. Why?
Because
Because it didn't hurt anybody. Okay, well, there were some cases of deaths associated with swine flu, but it was less than 0.01%. Very few. I'm not trying to minimize those deaths, but what I'm saying is it wasn't a bad one. But certain places were shut down. Mexico, you could not get in and out. Around spring break in 2009, some of my students went into Cancun, and then they tried to get back and they wouldn't let them back in. So they hitchhiked in Mexico. 2 ladies hitchhiked in Mexico from wherever they were to the border by El Paso. They tried to get across. They said, no, you can't come across. There's a pandemic. I'm like, well, we're U.S. citizens. Here's our passport. Look. And I didn't know. You can't come across. So they did what any other American would do. They just swam across the river, right? And they came across, and once they were here, okay, you're here. Okay, fine. But, you know, they quarantined them for a while. She called me from wherever they were. I mean, we're in quarantine for 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't want you here. Stay over there. Yeah, but swine flu was called swine flu because there was a mixing of some of the proteins, right? One was endemic in humans, one endemic to birds, and 2 were endemic to pig swine. Therefore, it was called swine flu. A lot of times, they have an animal's name associated with them, right? Avian flu, monkey pox, cow pox, chicken pox, because there's a mixing of genes, and that's how the virus becomes novel. When we say it's novel, it means we've never seen it before. Therefore, our immune system aren't ready for it, and it can cause a lot of problems. Okay? So, coronavirus. We're gonna talk about it in just a second. But tell me what you think about it. Was it a bad virus or was it not so bad?
Bad. That's
Bree says bad.
No.
yeah, cause my boss's husband almost died, I remember that.
People died from it for sure.
You don't think it was bad?
No.
Why?
Because
He was.
because it wasn't that dangerous. The people, now don't get me wrong,
They were.
I'm not trying to minimize the deaths that we had. 3.5 million off the planet. And that's a nice chunk. However, there's 8 billion people on the planet. So it's very small. Right? But there's a killer out there. And this killer is called avian flu. So if we compare swine flu, H1N1, so H stands for hemagglutinin, this should be a G, another G. Hemagglutinin, that's how the virus gets in. And then the last one is neuraminidase, so the N is neuraminidase, right? That's how it gets out. So here you can see H1N1, that's hemagglutinin, marker number 1, neuraminidase, marker number 1. That's swine flu. It spreads very easily, but it's rarely fatal. Okay? H5N1, you may have heard of it, avian flu. This is bad. So it spreads slowly, it hasn't mutated enough to be easily communicated. It's a few mutations away from it. It's gonna happen in my lifetime. We're gonna see it. It's gonna be bad because it has a 60% mortality rate. Now just think about this for a minute, Bree. Because you better get the vaccine for this one, girl. Think about this one. It has a 60% mortality rate. We have 330 million Americans in America. If we took 1 million of those individuals, how many people will we lose from that 1 million? 600,000. Multiply that by 330, and you get to see the extent of the problem we're going to be facing. This is going to happen. I've been predicting this one for a long time. 20 years, because it's been around that long. It just hasn't mutated enough. Yep.
Have they already started making vaccine? You can't make a vaccine for it.
We were in the process of making a vaccine.
Okay.
And then all the money for research got taken away. We're just making our lives worse.
Weren't there a lot of cases?
There was what?
A lot of cases of avian flu?
No, there haven't been that many cases of avian flu. And, I mean, it depends on it depends on how you're looking at this one. So, I mean, if you think 3 cases is a lot of cases, okay, there have been a lot of cases. But to me, that's not a lot of cases. And the only way you can get avian flu typically right now is from working with animals that have it. So mostly birds, chickens is a big one. Right? But it's done a really good job of mutating to other species. So cattle have got avian flu. You know, in some cases, do you remember when, like earlier this year, eggs went to $20 for, I don't know, it was expensive as heck, right? Like, you can't afford an egg these days. But that's because in the United States, if there's cases of avian flu in our chicken population, we kill all the chickens and we burn them. Right? So we did that, and therefore the price of eggs went way high because there wasn't very much inventory. We're back to a lot of egg laying chickens, so the eggs have come back. But I learned my lesson. I no longer buy a dozen at a time. I buy that case with 6 dozen in it, and I hoard them until I'm done. Are you with me? Because I like eggs a lot. I eat a lot of eggs. They're really good. But it's really important to think about that. So, avian flu. If you don't believe me, look it up. Just don't listen to Joe Rogan when he's talking about it, because he didn't tell you the truth. Why are you laughing, Ms. Harlow? Because I like to listen to him at night when I bring my coffee. He's a lot of fun, and he tells the truth. He should be a professor. But he lives here in Austin. I hope I never run into him. 'Cause I might have to tell him some stuff. Of course, he's rich and I'm not, so you know.
Different kinds of wealth, right?
What's that?
Different kinds of wealth. You have a wealth of knowledge. you have a
Well, I don't
wealth of
know.
understanding.
My wealth of knowledge is only good if I share it with people and people believe me. If people don't believe me, then what good is it?
That's still good for you.
Oh, I'm gonna take it to my death? Oh, come on. Part of knowledge is sharing it with people. Are you with me?
But really, I mean, it's not about people believing you because it's science. So it's just the fact.
You would think that would be.
I just know through. Yeah.
I'm
Rizzoli
saying-
and Isles says so.
There's people who don't like science.
Yeah.
Is that magic? I'm like, magic that works. It's not Harry Potter magic, it's real magic. So it's pretty cool. Here's how you can get avian flu by coming in contact with the virus from working with chicken. Mostly chickens, because you could get them from grackles too, but who's gonna go and work with grackles? Right? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go under a tree where the grackles are actually roosting, there's one thing that's gonna happen, and it's what?
They're gonna poop on
You're gonna poop on. You're gonna get pooped on. Right? And so nobody wants that. But chickens, we tend to want to hang out with them because they lay eggs and they taste really good on a barbecue pit. All kinds of good stuff like that. So it's important. Okay. That's influenza. I implore you to take the influenza vaccine every time it is offered. Do you know how we make the influenza vaccine?
You know, with a live virus.
Huh?
You mean like what's in it?
No. How we decide what's in it.
Isn't it whenever we're studying other countries in the world?
That's exactly how we do it. So right now, we are entering our spring season, and our flu season is almost over. The flu season is about to hit the Southern Hemisphere. We're watching down there, especially Australia, and we're watching to see what the most common influenza viruses are, the 3 most common. And that's what we'll make our vaccine against. Because what's down there is going to make its way up here. Are you with me? And so that's how. Oh, Senorita Torres, I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So, did you bring a taco?
No.
If you're late, you gotta bring tacos. So, we'll make it against the 3 most common viruses down there. A lot of times, we get it right. It's 80% effective. Anytime we get a vaccine that's 80% effective, we've done well. Several years back, our vaccine was only about 25% effective. I still took it because some protection is better than no protection. Coronavirus is crazy. Does anybody know how many times the coronavirus has mutated?
A lot.
Huh?
A lot of times.
A lot. What's a lot? I agree with you, a lot. How many?
I want to say 4 times. I don't know, I'm just thinking.
That ain't a lot, girl, that's 4.
100? Over 100?
More.
30,000.
Huh?
30,000.
More.
Well, I'm saying 4 times as much as I know.
How about over 100,000 times? How do we keep up with that? We can't, but the computers can. So we put all the data in, and the computers analyze the data, and they tell us what's going on. The newest strain of corona. Oh, okay, they got all Harry Potter on me first, right? So 7 months ago, they came up with 2 new strains of the coronavirus. They called it what? Nimbus and Stratus. They're talking about clouds in the sky. It's not scary to anybody. The latest strain came out. Last night. I was updating my presentation for virology, and I went down a rabbit hole. I was all the way down there looking around. The new strain of COVID is called cicada.
Like cicadas.
Huh?
Like cicadas.
Exactly like a cicada. Why? Because it showed up in 2024 and it went dormant. It only has come back now. So they call it the cicada strain. Right. And if you're a Latino, it's chichara. Are you with me? And so it's pretty interesting to think about. So coronavirus is called COVID-19, and COVID-19 means coronavirus disease 2019 because that's when we first saw it. We saw it in the Wuhan district of China. And then in January, it started hitting other places. Now, people don't know this, but when the Wuhan district in China was having cases, we were having cases in Seattle and in Los Angeles and in Chicago and in New York. So it was here already. We didn't know what it was. There was reports being written by epidemiologists talking about this really weird virus that was spreading fast, and they didn't know what it was. They thought it was a coronavirus. And then it started getting out of control. And in February that year, two things happened. One was the Super Bowl. And the other was Mardi Gras. And I thought to myself, this is going to be bad. 3 weeks later, we were about to go to spring break, and I told my students, I'm like, things are going to get out of control. We're not going to come back to spring break. And they're like, well, you're making this up, Provi. You're being way too weird about it. I'm like, no. I said, I've seen the numbers. It's spreading way too fast. I said, we're not going to come back. And so Friday before spring break, they announced that we would not be coming back after spring break. And we would have 2 weeks off so that we could prepare for an online version of the class, which I already knew. I was already getting ready. Because I'm like, it's going to be bad. And so that was the worst time of my life from a teaching perspective because I hated teaching online. I hated looking at this little screen and nobody's face. Hated it. And people would show up and sign in because they would get credit if they were in. And then they would go and do something else and just leave me there talking to myself. So I got smart after that, and at the very end, I would call on people for them to answer questions, and if they didn't, I clicked them off, and then they didn't get any points. Right? So, because I got tired of people just watching reruns of Gilligan's Island or something. I don't know, whatever they do. But what I'm saying is, to me, online teaching doesn't work, and I refuse to do it. That's why I'm here with you all. Okay? And by the way, there's a whole bunch of cheating going on too. Can't stop it. It's bad. Huh?
Online, you mean?
It's bad. Real bad. Okay. Getting back to the more important. So the real name of this virus is severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus number 2, also known as SARS-CoV-2. We don't call it that because an average citizen would not understand. So we call it something cute like COVID, right? Coronavirus infectious disease 2019. That's what it stands for. That's what's pretty cool. It's called coronavirus because if you look up an electron micrograph, a transmission electron micrograph, it appears that there's a crown around the actual envelope. Those are the spike proteins. Okay, this is spike proteins. We know a lot about them, right? We've been studying them ever since SARS-CoV-1 in 1995. So we knew a lot about them. So we know about the spike proteins, we know about the germination protein, M protein. We know about hemagglutinin, which influenza has also. Right? We know about, in fact, it's an RNA, it has an envelope. There's a other protein, E protein, that's the smallest. We don't know what it's about. We know it's important, we just don't know what it is. But we know a lot about it. So we knew so much about it that all we needed was the genetic sequence, which Chinese gave us, thank you. And then we needed a render for the spike protein, and UT gave it to us. Right? And so we could make vaccines. Right? This is me over here. This is kind of when I went down that rabbit hole, this is something that was published by the World Health Organization. And so it goes, these are real serious complications, shortness of breath, loss of speech, chest pain, those are really serious. More common, fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste or smell. My cousin, who is an anti-vaxxer, I told her, you need to get vaccinated. She said, no, I don't believe in vaccines. I'm like, okay. She got COVID, and her lungs are so scarred that she has to carry oxygen with her. To walk up just one flight of stairs, she's out. She can't do anything anymore. And it's not gonna get better. Right? Of all my family members in Corpus, 4 of them would not get the vaccine. I was in charge of Christmas around 2023 when COVID was coming way down. And they were not invited to Christmas celebration because they would not get vaccinated. 2 of them, when they found out that they weren't invited, they called me and said, what do I have to do to come to the party? You have to get vaccinated and you have to show me your vaccine card before you come in. I'm in charge. Okay. And they did. 2 of them didn't. Both of them showed up. I said, you're not coming in. And go, you can't stop me. I'm like, I can't, but they can. My 2 big cousins who are 3 times bigger than I am. I said, and they know. I said, we've got entirely too many older people in this family that you can kill. You're not welcome here. Well, here's your plate and a cookie. Go. Get out. You're not allowed in here. Then one of them came down with that really bad infection, scarred tissue. It's her fault. She could have listened to me. She chose not to. She deals with the rest of her life. She'll have to deal with that. Oh, by the way, now she told her husband and her son and her daughter to get vaccinated. Right. So I want to introduce you to a new thing. Right. First of all, you can see here that the people who get affected by it are older people, people with asthma, diabetic patients, people with heart disease, morbidly obese, smokers. Oh, by the way, my cousin who developed that real serious infection was a smoker and very obese. Right. Pregnant mothers. Why pregnant mothers?
Because our immune system's already down, taking care of the baby.
So that the fetus isn't destroyed. Good thing. Right. But you're now susceptible. Right. And so it's changed the way we do a lot of things. Right. Telemedicine works, y'all. I was very impressed by it. I would rather go see a person, but in this case it was, 1 o'clock in the morning, and my wife, she developed something. I'm like, the emergency room was full. I'm like, well, how can an emergency room be full? Well, we called telemed and they helped us, and they filled us. They prescribed. I went to pick it up. Right? Not a problem. That was amazing. Well, the way we do, very few people go to those stores anymore. My wife only goes curbside shopping, unless she goes, do you want to go to? I'm like, yeah. So I go to HEB, I talk to people. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Who are you? I'm like, I'm just a guy shopping. What's your name? Yeah. So we just talk. It drives my wife crazy, because when we go to HEB, she says, you get these things, she'll give me 3 things to get, and she'll get like 20, and it takes me longer to do the 3 because I gotta talk to people. And so it's just not very good. So it's amazing how things have, almost all our meetings for the biology department have been online. Drove me crazy. And then what was happening is we weren't collaborating anymore. Nobody was helping each other. So the department chair finally decided maybe it's time to go back in person, and we've been meeting in person ever since. You can't really have an effective relationship with somebody online. I know people meet online and date and things like that. I want to introduce you to a new idea. which you may have never heard of, is RO. RO is sometimes written like this, it's called R naught. R naught is reproductive number. It's how easily an infectious agent is spread in a population. So at its height, COVID-19 had an RO of 1 to 3.4%. In places where there was a lot of old people, like Italy, it was bad. It had an RO of about 9%. It was bad. So let's just take that into, because influenza right now, less than a tenth of it. But let's just take the middle of that. 2. Let's say 2. All right. So I have COVID. I have kids. We wake up in the morning. We're running late. And I get them all ready. But we don't have time to eat breakfast, right? So in the car we get, I decided, well, let's stop by Mickey D's and get some breakfast. So we stop there, get some breakfast. We go in. I now have exposed 2 people at Mickey D's. So then we get out for Mickey D's, we go, and then I think, oh my God, because I'm not very responsible dad. I look at the gas tank, there's only like a little bit, we're about to run out. Stop at the gas station, hang out there, go inside, pay. I exposed 2 more people there. Right? Then we get, and then one of my kids says, you were supposed to bring cookies to homeroom today. I'm like, oh my God. So we stop at the Heed, get down there, go get the cookies. I exposed 2 more people. It's not the Bastrop Heed, it's another Heed. That way you don't get it. Exposed 2 more people there. I go in to deliver the cookies. I expose 2 more people there. Then I go and I'm like, oh, I might as well get tacos for my guys at work. I get tacos, go in there, infect 2 more people. Then I take the tacos, we have a meeting. There's 30 people in the room. I expose 2 more people. Before 10 o'clock in the morning, I could have exposed over 12 people to COVID if I had it. That's how fast it moves. Now, it doesn't move as fast as measles. Do you know what the RO for measles is? 9. If I walked into a store with measles, 9 of you would get it. And Ms. Brito, you're gonna be one of them, I can tell.
Why not always?
Well, I mean, maybe all of you would get it, but statistically 9 people would get it. What about Ebola? How communicable is it? Let's say Harlow has it, okay? First of all, Malka, you better move from there. You better get up and come over here. But Ebola right now is an infectious agent of caregivers. So the only person, which would probably be me, and maybe Lisette, I don't know, maybe the doc, because I might need you, doc. We go over there and we try to help her. We're exposed, we're probably gonna come down with it. But everybody else who is not near her is not gonna come down with it. I had ex-students in Dallas. Provi, I'm calling you because of this crazy infectious disease called Ebola that we have up here. Should I be worried? I'm like, well, where is it? Well, it's in Baptist. I'm like, well, where are you? Well, I'm 8 blocks away. I'm like, I wouldn't worry about it. I had people from Austin. Should we be worried about the Ebola? I said, where is it? Dallas? I'm like, where are you, Austin? No. Come on. You took micro with me. You know better. I'm not gonna pick up something from somebody who's 400 miles away. Influenza is different. COVID is different. Those are all airborne. Chickenpox is airborne. My cousin got chickenpox when he was young. It was June. Aunt Chema, remember I told you, put in that she invited all the kids, all of the cousins, all 20 of us to the house for a party. We all got there, we're like, we're having a party? In June? Whose birthday is it? Nobody's birthday. Why are we having a party? Well, because Chema wanted everybody to get exposed to chickenpox so we could all have chickenpox in the summer so that we could all get through it together and stay in one house. And so we stayed there for about 2 weeks. And we had all these little pustules all over our bodies, but we got through chickenpox. And that way they didn't have to deal with it during the school year. Shimon was a budding immunologist.
So, do you think that, cause shingles is like the adult version of, is it maybe less severe if you have chickenpox when you're a child? No? Okay.
That is not a telltale sign of whether or not you're gonna have a severe case of shingles or not. Potentially, you have immunity to it.
Right.
But everybody's physiology is a little bit different. Everybody's gonna react differently. The worst case of shingles that I ever saw was in one of my colleagues. And shingles develops on where the nerves innervate the body.
Yeah, a lot on the stomach
Yeah.
too, yeah.
So hers were up through here. And it was painful.
Yeah, my professor, she had to be out of class for.
And who was this?
Oh gosh, she worked for ACC. She was a little fiery little older lady.
What was her name?
It's Huss. Professor Huss. She taught our.
Biology?
No. She did the medical assisting.
I don't know her.
Yeah.
But
she was awesome.
I had another colleague kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say her name unless you knew it.
Okay.
Because then I didn't say her name, you did.
Yeah.
I like to keep people anonymous as much as possible.
Right.
Except when it comes to family. I'll tell all my family any day. So, because I'm not very smart. Okay, so it's pretty interesting to think about. So the whole thing about vaccines is that you flatten the curve. You don't want it to be so bad that the medical facilities are overburdened. And that's what happened with COVID. Right? Even when the vaccines were available and we knew they worked, 50% of the population would not get them. All those people died. What are you gonna do?
I also think that the reason a lot of people didn't get it is because they had in their mind like, how can they make a vaccine this fast versus that this vaccine has been being made for so long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
it does. And that's perfectly true. Right?
Because there was a time at one point I wouldn't get I got the first one, but I'm like, that's kind of weird how they have a second one already got.
Yeah.
Well, because, especially with the RNA vaccines, Bree, all we have to do is change a little bit of the sequence. And we have a new vaccine.
But we don't
There
know
wasn't
that.
enough awareness
Right,
about
exactly. And
it.
then there were manufacturers,
Oh,
like what is
I
it,
get
Johnson
it.
and Johnson?
I get it. But you didn't listen to me when I was telling you.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I just wish
Why'd you call me?
we didn't have your number.
I'm in the phone book. Okay, no phone books anymore, right?
I didn't know how good you were until this semester.
I think they didn't know who to trust.
Oh, I get it. I mean, and I'm having a little bit of fun with y'all. I get it. I
I
mean,
just wish it was like.
this is my only platform that I will talk about this stuff. Out there, I no longer talk about it to anybody. My family.
Yeah.
But because they think you're a know-it-all if you start to say these things. And then if they bring up something and you're like, that didn't make any sense at all. And I tell them the truth, they're like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, because I have 4 degrees in it. I've worked in the industry. I said, when's the last time you did anything in science? I colored on the coloring book when I was in grade school. Makes me a little bit more qualified to talk about this subject than you do.
So what were the differences in the manufacturers? Because I remember
The
there was
manufacturing.
Johnson and Johnson.
Oh, now, okay.
Oh.
Okay. You know I'm a J&J boy.
Yeah.
The J&J vaccine sucked. Did you get that? It sucked. As a matter of fact, there was a clotting issue with the vaccine that they didn't know about. J&J did the right. They got sued out the wazoo, but they did the right thing. As soon as they started to see that clotting thing, they took it. It was no good anyway. When my family called and said, "Well, which vaccine should I take?" I said, "Pfizer, BioNTech, then Moderna." Well, why don't you say Moderna first? I'm like, because people feel a lot more pain, 2 days after.
I did.
So, I said, but with the Pfizer-BioNTech one, you don't have that. So that's the one I said, well, my brother calls it, I can't get the Pfizer one, there's only Moderna. I'm like, get that one. It's gonna hurt. I'm like, you'll be okay. You can hurt a little while.
Yeah.
He got it. Now they trust me. But before it's like, well, let's see what Chema has to say. I'm like, oh my God. We used to think that the fomites were really important. Not as important. It's all about aerolization. And we said 6 feet, but we now know it's 15. So all those little things that are still on the ground, double it, right? And that's the only thing about it. So Ebola is so big it didn't go very far, but the measles goes really far. And the coronavirus goes even further. Right? That's pretty interesting to think about how that works. It's the same type of lytic process that we talked about before. Right? And we always want to flatten the curve as much as possible. Right? And what I will say, and I get it, right? I mean, I was young one time, and I always wanted to have fun. So to me, the most irresponsible group of individuals when it came to coronavirus was you all. And I don't mean that like you individually, but your age group. And you know, there were people's grandparents who got really sick because your age group went to parties and got exposed to coronavirus, and you came home and you gave it to your grandparents and your parents. And that's kind of sad. But I get it. I know that y'all want to have fun. I get it. You know, so it's important. So here's the other thing. Remember I told you that a lot of times they have animals associated with them? We now know that, and this was published in 2023, this is the latest. So we always knew it was the bat and the pangolin. Pangolin is a cute little guy, you know, like why did it have to be a pangolin? Why couldn't it have been, you know, a snake of some sort, you know, but it was a pangolin. So we knew the bat and the pangolin were always involved. These people published that it was also the raccoon dog. I'm like, I didn't even know what a raccoon dog was. I had to look it up. I'm like, is that real? I had to look it up. And so this is the lineage of coronavirus, right? So it's the bat, the pangolin, and the raccoon dog. And so that mixed with human genomes made this new virus that we call the novel coronavirus, right? And so anytime you put a little N in front of the virus, that means it's a novel, that means we've never seen it before. And therefore, we're much more apt to get seriously ill from it. But here's the citation. Anytime I have something really important to share with you, I will give you the citation so that you can go and look it up yourself. Because Bree, I don't ever want you to think I'm not telling you the truth. Everything that I'm saying here, you can look up and you can confirm it. Because I only talk truth. Maybe I get a little bit overzealous about presenting it, but that's mostly for fun. So here are the 3 possible lineages. It's different now, but I wanted to show you that we study everything about the virus before we do anything with intervention. Right? We want to know exactly what's going to happen. And so the vaccine had to go through the 3 stages of clinical trials before it could even be put on the market. Right? And so it's pretty important to think about. We think it all happened in the Wuhan district, right? But we'll never really know because China will not share data with us. They refuse to. I get it. If that's where it started, they might be liable for, 3.5 million people's deaths. They don't want to have to deal with that. So it's important to think about it. Here's all the different mutations up to 2020, and that's not all of them. But the new variant is called the cicada variant. I had a lot of fun reading about it last night. But it's called cicada because it showed up in 2024, and then it went dormant for a year, and now it's back. It's not, at this point, it doesn't appear to be very serious, but it's still a respiratory infection. And so it's important for us to think about, how does that fall into what we wanna talk about, right? The death rates, your age group, right, you're probably here somewhere, not very much at all. But the older you get, right, if you're 80 plus with coronavirus, there's about 9% of all 80-year-olds are going to die from it. That's what this data means, right? And so we want to try to, and then again, if you think about it, right? So Italy had a much higher death rate because of the older population now, right? So it's pretty interesting to think about. This is the United States. So if we think about it, right? So this is mortality rates for every 100,000 individuals in these places in the United States. First of all, where did most of the deaths occur in the United States due to coronavirus in this time period, right? So I don't have the date up there, but let's just say it's 2023, up to 2023. Where did most of the deaths occur? In the South, right? Why is that? Huh?
It was warmer. It's warmer. People don't vaccinate.
That's a good hypothesis, but it didn't play into it. What is it? Vaccines. A lot of these people don't get vaccinated. Correct. We are below the Mason-Dixon line, you know. What else?
Mardi Gras.
Huh?
I said Mardi Gras.
It was kind of crazy, you know, down there, that little dot. But no, that's not it.
They're older people.
Oh no, that's not it either. But good, that's a good one.
Is it because of where the animals that we were talking about?
No, at that point, the virus is already completely mutated. It's now the one that was killing people.
Our population?
What about the population?
Were they not?
People per
They
large.
weren't too scared of it, so they were still like roaming around.
Good hypothesis, not why. Anybody else? Some of you probably are thinking it but don't want to say it because you don't want to sound disrespectful. What do we know about these states here?
I know.
Huh?
Predominantly African American.
And?
Good food.
Oh, healthcare.
For sure.
Healthcare,
Not accessible to healthcare.
right.
And not very affluent.
Right.
Therefore, these were people who had to go to work. And when they had to go to work, they got exposed. That's number one reason. What the hell happened here?
Is that Arizona?
Huh?
Is that Arizona?
And
Arizona, New Mexico. What happened?
ASU.
No. What happened? What do you find there?
A casino.
Y'all don't want to say it because you don't want to sound, you don't want to sound disrespectful. Reservations.
What'd you say?
We forgot about our First Nations people. They needed help and nobody wanted to help them. Isn't that awful? I mean, just sit there for a moment and think about all the complexities that go into these things. And we're talking science, but it's social, it's political, it's a lot of other things go into these things. Right? And so tell me something. Why did California not have very many deaths? Hmm?
Did they shut down? They shut down?
They shut down for sure.
They have money.
Huh?
They have money.
They do have money. A lot of money. There's more billionaires in that state than anywhere else.
And all the white people jumped on the bandwagon. Got taxes.
There's a lot of Latinos there too. Because the government,
Enforces.
they hired this company called Blue Dot. And Blue Dot did an analysis of all the Google searches that were going on And anytime there was a spike in people kind of Googling symptoms of coronavirus, the governor would send a lot of people in that area to educate and help. And so therefore, they had good communication and good infrastructure to help the people. Nobody says that about them. I don't know how I really care about Gavin Newsom or not, but what I will tell you is that he did a pretty good job during this time. Right? His hair looks good all the time. Right? And then, if you look at New York, there was some big ones, but where New York City was, there wasn't very much. Why is that? Now, say what you will about, what's his name, Cuomo? I mean, what was going on during this with Cuomo, he was like, okay, I'm having an affair. I shouldn't say that, but I'm just having fun. But he's the only guy that got every day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, noon here, because I watched him every day, because I learned a lot from him. He would give an update of everything that was going on in the state, and he would say exactly what they were doing to intervene. Right? Good communication. Healthcare and science is about good communication. I love me some Fauci, but they didn't do a very good job of communicating what was going on. CDC lost a lot of respect because they appeared to not have things under control. Science is dogmatic. You say something on one day, and 2 days later, the data says something different. If you go online or whatever on television and say what's happening, now people start to go, you just said this 2 days ago, and now you're saying this. You don't know what's going on. Right? And that was a good thing that they did that. Because had they not continued to update, then people would have been less informed and potentially we would have lost more people's lives. But to the average person who doesn't understand what science means, the first rule of epidemiology is you don't scare anybody. Because if you scare people, you're going to cause them to be in a panic. I mean, we didn't have to do that because could you find toilet paper during coronavirus? Really? Toilet paper? It became a commodity. People were trading it. I'll give you 2 steaks for 1 roll of toilet paper. I'm like, what? Amazing. And so it's important to think about. What I will tell you is that if you have type A blood, you're more apt to have serious complications with coronavirus. If you have type O blood, it's me. It's protective. These are odds ratios. So we get odds ratio from looking at everybody who's had it and then looking at their blood type and see who had serious and who didn't have serious complications. So type A blood appears to be problematic with the coronavirus. Why is that? We're still looking into it. All these things, Paxlovid, Regen, Remdesivir, right, the JK inhibitors, convalescent plasma, they all worked for some, maybe 50% of the population who took them. Not all of them. Dexamethasone, which is a steroid, helped more than any of these other things. And all it did was bring down inflammation. Sometimes the answers to what you're praying for is already available. You just have to know when to use it. This is El Chavo. Anybody know who El Chavo is? El Chavo is like an icon in the Latino world, right? And the Latinos, they don't like anything to deal with doctors or nurses. They don't trust them. They trust the curanderos. So they use Chavo to actually try to get people to use their mask. And Chavo says, "Ay, no seas güey. Ponte la máscara, por favor." And that means, hey, brother, I care about you. Please wear a mask. masks are never intended to protect you. They were put on to protect everybody else. Because if you had COVID and you wore a mask and you sneezed, the mask would hold back a lot of the infectious particles. But the viruses are so small, if somebody else had it, they could get into a mask. So it wasn't ever to protect you, it was to protect everybody else from you. If you wore a mask, what that meant is that you cared about the people in the population enough that you wore a mask to say, I care about you enough that I will. And I still carry my mask in case I go someplace and everybody's wearing a mask. I will tell them, I will ask, would you prefer I wear a mask? And I will wear a mask. But I prefer not to wear a mask. Okay. Vaccines are helpful, people don't use them. And there's a whole bunch of them. Right. My two favorite ones are, in order of preference, the Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Moderna. None of the others to me make any sense. J&J, and I'm a J&J guy. I worked for them for a long time. Their vaccines sucked. Okay. So bombs, chloroquine, and hydroxychloroquine. These are anti-malarial drugs that people were touting as being helpful. They're not. There was a clinical trial in Brazil, and so many people were dying from this that they had to stop the clinical trial. And then ivermectin didn't work out. Although in the time you couldn't buy ivermectin. Ivermectin is usually used for big animals to put on the back of their bodies so that they didn't get ticks and biting flies and things like that. You couldn't find it because people were buying it and using it for themselves. And then I'm gonna stop there for the day. We'll take it up with arboviruses so we'll talk arboviruses, we'll talk herpes, and then we'll talk HIV, and we're ready for examining poo number 3. Examining poo number 3 will be next Thursday, okay? I'll finish this unit on Thursday. We'll have a review either Thursday or Tuesday, and then we'll have the exam. I'll start unit 4, okay? I'll see you guys in lab in about 10 minutes.